In this video, we will discuss other authorization setup. In User Customization, User Setup, Register User menu, if you click on a user ID. In Authorization tab, you can find various fields for authorization setup, and we will discuss from authorization coverage to price amount modification setup. Firstly, you can see default authorization options for each field. It refers to the default authorization settings that can be set up through User Setup Authorization Group Settings. For each group, you can set other authorization settings, and these settings will apply if you select default authorization option for each field. So for this same user, since you selected sales department, the default authorization option will follow the settings of sales department other authorization settings. And next, you can see authorization coverage setup. Here, you can set for each module of Inventory 1, 2, Accounting 1, 2. You can set the range of the data that this user can view. And there are 3 settings that you can select: All, Created, and Last Modified. All option will allow the user to view any data created by any user. In Created option will filter the data that this user can view based on the creator of the data. And Last Modified option will filter the data by the data's last modifier. And here, Authorization Group column will allow you to follow the group settings, the default authorization group. And if you want to vary the setting from the group settings, you need to check individual authorization option first, and then select the desired option on the right. And in Created option, if you check Department, then same user will be able to view only the data created by the members of Sam's department. If you check Writer, then Sam will be able to view only the data created by Sam herself. And in Last Modified column, if you check Department, then Sam will be able to view only the data that have been last modified by the members of Sam's department. And if you check Modifier, then only if the last modifier is Sam will Sam be able to view the data. So this function is a function of limiting the data that each user can view based on creator of the data or based on the last modifier of the data. And you can set the range as either department members or the writer himself, herself. And for example, for sales list menu, if you check individual authorization and in Created column, if you check Department option, then Sam will be able to view only the sales slips created by the department members of Sam's department. And likewise, in Last Modified column, if you check Department, then Sam will be able to view only the sales slips that have been last modified by the members of Sam's department. And Department can be set up in User Information tab, Department field. You can select a department and connect it to each user ID. Next, in Widget Menu Authorization field, you can click Setup and set the menu authorizations for ECOUNTERP widget, which can be found when you first log into eCount. In the Home dashboard, you can add or hide widgets and adjust their size, or fold, unfold each widget, and configure the dashboard to your desire. And apart from configuring the dashboard, you need to have the corresponding EP widget authorization for each corresponding menu. And in Set Widget Menu Authorization field, you can give or restrict the menu authorization for each menu's widget. You can check Use or Do Not Use. Or if you will follow the group settings, check Default Authorization, and then it'll follow the settings in Other Authorization column. Next, in Groupware field, you can enable the service of Groupware for each user ID. If you check Use, then same user will be able to use Groupware module. If you check Not in Use, then any access to Groupware module will be restricted for SAM. And next, in ECOUNTERP app field, you can set whether you will permit the use of ECOUNTERP mobile app to this user. Default option will follow the group setting, and if you check Use, you can set up the use of this user's mobile app. You can see various settings. Firstly, in main screen settings, you can set whether to display home screen first or whether to display a particular ERP menu when the user first logs into mobile ECOUNTERP app. And next, in Input View Default Settings field, you can set the default value for the basic codes and barcode scanning for each ERP menu. For example, you can set the default customer and default warehouse so that when the user logs into mobile app and go to new sales, the user will not have to enter the most frequently used customer code or location code each time of entering sales data. And in Scan Barcode field, you can set the initial screen of each menu to either camera for scanning barcode or menu's input screen, and set whether to keep the screen after shooting. And in Apply Menu by Menu Settings section, you can set for each menu whether to apply the default input view settings or whether to set individual settings only for this menu. And in Notification settings, you can set the details of notifications of mobile app, and you can also set Do Not Disturb hours. And lastly, in Barcode Type field, you can select the type of barcode if you use barcode scanning by using your mobile app. Next, you can set whether to allow batch upload through Excel add-in program, not in use or use option. And you can also set whether to allow Excel export, which means extracting the data in ERP to outside in an Excel file. And lastly, in Price Amount Modification field, you can set whether to allow or not allow to modify the loaded price and amount by each menu. So for example, if you already set the price of each item code, then in Purchases menu, if the program loads the price that you entered, then if you check Do Not Allow, then the user will not be able to make any adjustment to the loaded price. So far we've discussed from authorization coverage to price amount modification. And instead of individual setting, you can use the group settings in authorization group settings, other authorization column. And once you've set all these fields, you can batch apply the setting by using the default authorization setting to each user. And lastly, you can use copy authorization function to copy the authorization settings of a certain user to multiple users at once. You can simply choose the source user and the target users, let's say the members of the same department, and then click Save. Then the authorization settings of same user will be copied and pasted to the selected users.